Today, we're digging into a statement that you hear all the time about Accra's wild property market. It's a nice, simple rule that seems to cut through all the chaos. But is it the whole truth? Let's find out. And there it is. This comes from a very prominent figure in the Gamashi traditional authority. You know, in a city that's infamous for its land disputes, this sounds like music to your ears, right? A golden rule. Everything is a lease. Simple, clean, no confusion. But here's the thing about Accra. Its history is deep and its laws have layers upon layers. So the big question is this rule a timeless fact, or is it more of a modern snapshot that kind of leaves some really crucial parts of the story out of the frame? Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with what's absolutely right about this claim. Because to be fair, if you're looking to get land in Accra today, this statement is actually pretty solid advice. It really does reflect the law as it stands right now. And make no mistake, this isn't just a suggestion. It's written right into Ghana's 1992 constitution, and it's backed up by the Land Act of 2020. So if you're a buyer today, you simply cannot get a brand new freehold title in Ghana family land. Any paper that says it's giving you one, it's void. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. So everything really comes down to these two words, a leasehold. Think of it like a really, really long-term rental. It has an expiration date, and when it's up, the land goes back to the original owner. But a freehold is totally different. It's forever. No expiry date, no going back. It is, for all intents and purposes, an outright sale. The no-sale rule is basically arguing that only the left side of the screen is possible in Accra. But, and this is a big but, that modern rule is not the whole story. Not even close. In fact, the very law that bans new sales today is actually a huge clue that points to a completely different past. A past that's been almost totally erased from the public conversation. Now, this right here is the logical bombshell. Think about it for a second. You don't pass a major constitutional law to ban something that nobody was doing anyway, right? The fact that the government had to step in and explicitly forbid the creation of new freeholds is maybe the best proof we have that, before that ban, creating freeholds wasn't just happening, it was happening all the time. And this timeline just lays it all out. For more than a century, selling land outright, creating freeholds, was just a normal part of how Accra grew. Starting way back in the late 1800s, Ga authorities were making permanent grants to people who weren't Ga. It was so common that a major academic study in 1955 confirmed it was standard practice. The bans we live with today, they only showed up much, much later, in 1969, and then finally in the Constitution in 1993. And this isn't just some dusty old history. Ghana's highest courts have looked at this history time and time again and have made decisions that are legally binding today, recognizing that those past sales were completely valid. I mean, just look at this. Landmark case after landmark case. For decades, confirmed that these historical grants created permanent rights that could be passed down through generations. They weren't leases, they were legally solid freeholds. The courts were crystal clear. A sale was a sale. So, where does all this leave us? It feels like a contradiction, doesn't it? On one hand, you have a modern rule that says no sales. On the other, you have a documented history, backed by the courts, of sales being widespread. The key is that both are true. They just exist side by side. And this is the absolute core of it. Accra doesn't have one set of land rules. It has two, running in parallel. And the rules that apply to any given piece of land depend entirely on one thing: when that property right was created. This table just makes it perfectly clear. If a freehold was created before the constitutional ban went into effect in 1993, it is still valid, it is still binding, and it is legally protected today. But for any new deal made after that date, a leasehold is the only way to go. It's that simple. Two timelines, two different sets of legal rights. And this is the real bottom line for all of those historical properties. Those rights were legally established, sometimes 100 years ago. They can't just be wished away by a modern policy statement. A sale that was valid back then is still valid today, protected by the full force of the law. And hey, this isn't just some local legal debate. Independent international organizations like USAID have studied Ghana's land system, and they've confirmed this exact same history. Their reports acknowledge that freehold titles are a very real, very significant part of Accra's property landscape, all dating from that pre-1992 era. So, after all that legal history, why is getting this right so important?
Well, because boiling it all down to a simple but incomplete slogan has huge real-world consequences for homeowners, for buyers, and for the city as a whole. So here's the danger. That no-sale message is genuinely helpful advice for anyone buying land today, but when it's treated like a universal truth that applies to all of history, it puts the security of every single person holding a valid pre-1993 freehold at risk. It creates massive confusion for countless properties across Accra. We're talking homes, businesses, schools, churches, all built on land that was legally sold. So what's the takeaway for you? It's pretty straightforward. If you're a new buyer, you are getting a leasehold. End of story. If you're an existing owner with a title from before 1993, your freehold is legit, it's binding, and it's protected. And for anyone in governments, public statements have to match the dual legal reality. Otherwise, you end up causing the very fraud and insecurity you're trying to prevent.
Because in the end, this isn't just about legal definitions, is it? It's about history. It's about memory. It's about whose story gets told. The story of Accra's land has many, many chapters, and leaving some of them out doesn't just simplify the story, it changes it. And that has real consequences for the people who call the city home.